Welcome to Waywut, your weekly verbal double take. This is a rabbit hole podcast where a couple of old guys do moderate to shallow dives into various topics, ranging from true crime, paranormal, sports, pop culture, or anything else that we find interesting. We drop episodes every Tuesday and on Fridays if we feel like it. You can follow us on Facebook, X, and TikTok. We appreciate you joining us. And now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello. Welcome once again to another episode of Waywut. My name is Daryl. I've taken the lead today. And here I am with the guy who failed to pass on his webbed toes to his children, but somehow passed on his love of oily men publicly rubbing all over each other. Jason.
You gonna talk about wrestling?
I was gonna say the irony of the shirt that I'm wearing right now, me making fun of you about wrestling, is not lost on me. I was picking out my shirt for this. After I put it on, I was like, "Oh God, I make fun of Jason for liking wrestling." Oh well.
You know they re-signed WWE re-signed him.
Oh, Rusev.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I can't wait to watch them waste him again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with Triple H in charge now. All right. Now that we ran everybody off from this episode, this is nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today. However, this rant that I have about enablers kind of does a little bit, at least. Blood is thicker than water is a saying that you hear way too often. Guess what? Blood also carries diseases that can ruin your life. So it's not that big a deal. Feeling obligated to help someone just because you share whatever number of genetic markers is stupid. It makes no sense.
They're family. I got to help them.
Yeah. I am proud that I have been able to cut people out of my life like someone would cut out paper dolls with scissors. You know, gone, done. I've done that with friends that turned out to not be very good and family members as well. It's just, you know, I ain't got time for that bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm this cruel person that will never help anyone. I'm talking about bad people that make no effort to improve their situation or just expect to be lifted out of whatever predicament they constantly put themselves in. Or even worse, the kind of person that just sees kindness and trust as something to use to screw over whoever's showing them that kindness or trust.
Yep.
Which never makes sense to me. It's like, it's like, oh wow, yeah, here's a source of food and money. I better screw it over.
Yeah. Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah. I know, and in some cases have known, people that continually allow someone to abuse their kindness or repeatedly betray their trust just because that person is family. It's because of witnessing this firsthand and way more times than I ever wish I had, that if I see or experience any person even attempting to do that, then I cut ties with them. Or at the very least, if it's hard to cut ties, I will limit ties with that person. If you're not sure if someone in your life is like one of these bad people that I'm talking about, here's an easy thought exercise. Imagine you and the person that you don't know if they're like this abusing person. Imagine you're both running from zombies, and then that person trips, and the zombies start chomping on their legs. Is this person A, shouting at you to run and save yourself, or B, they're holding onto your leg, not letting you run, saying, "Save me! Save me!" If you're being honest to yourself and they are the first person, then cool. Help them out. Do what you can. If they are the kind of person that would, hold you back and risk your safety and well-being, well, then you're probably better off cutting that person off the same way you would cut in the zombie situation, the same way you'd cut their hand off if they were holding onto your leg, not letting you run away.
You're already gone. Too late.
Or, if you're, say, the type of person that's okay dying with whoever it is, or die trying to save that person that's pretty much already dead, then you need to go to therapy and get that shit sorted out because you're fucking broken. You don't have enough self-worth. So stop helping people that only continue their existence through help. The world is sink or swim. If someone is sinking, then they deserve maybe a couple of efforts to help keep them above water. By then, they should be able to swim on their own. But if you're constantly holding their head above water, eventually you're just going to sink with them.
Very true.
Bad family members, when you just boil it down, are just bad people. Same way as some other person on the street you don't know. It doesn't matter if they're a family member or not. They are still just a bad person. And there's no amount of blood or legal documentation that obligates you to go down the drain with them.
No, you can still love them and you can still care for them, but it doesn't mean you have to go down that drain with them.
Yeah. Well, speaking of garbage family members, do you remember our episode called Hometown Psycho?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't, in episode 25, I talked about the serial killer, Charles Albright, who was also known as the Eyeball Killer, who was also known as a teacher at the high school that Jason and I went to before we went there. Charles Albright, was adopted by a crazy woman that was very concerned about raising a man that would grow up greedy for sex. And so she would chaperone all his dates when he was a teenager.
Yeah, she makes it better.
Yeah. She also encouraged his hobby in taxidermy. So all sorts of weird shit whenever this guy was young and he grew up to be a killer. If you want to know everything else that happened, go listen to that episode. I'm not going to recap the whole thing.
It's a good one.
I bring it up because that crazy lady has inspired this first in a series of episodes. About the family life of various serial killers.
Oh, okay.
Because you always sit there and just hear their neighbors. He seems so nice to me. That's all we ever get. But I want to go more into what were they like before they were a psychopath, or were they always just a psychopath? All right, let's jump into this.
Let's do it.
On December 4th, 1972, a 7-year-old boy named Steven Stayner was abducted in Merced, California. Kenneth Parnell was the kidnapper, and he kept Steven for 7 years.
Damn.
Steven experienced 7 years of abuse and was pretty much psychologically broken in that time, but he wasn't completely destroyed. While, he had Steven captive, Parnell kidnapped a 5-year-old boy because Steven really wasn't doing it for him anymore ever since he hit puberty. Fucking pervert. Steven took it upon himself. He gathered all his strength and he escaped with that boy to a police station where they both were eventually reunited with their families.
Wow, 7 years later. Can you imagine?
Yeah. One can only imagine what 7 years of torment would do to a child. According to Steven's sister, he was pretty messed up. and he never received any kind of like therapy, except for some brief counseling right after he was initially discovered.
Really?
Well, not discovered, recovered. She claimed that their father insisted that he didn't need counseling. I mean, he was just getting, diddled by a man for 7 years. That's not going to... He's fine. Just rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, shake it off.
Yeah, walk it off. Steven was bullied in school about being molested and everything else until he eventually dropped out. He got married at 20. He worked with child abduction groups by giving talks to children about personal safety. Him and his wife eventually had 2 children. Then in 1989, at the age of 24, Steven was the victim of a hit-and-run accident when a car pulled out in front of his motorcycle. and he was killed in the accident.
Damn. What a shitty life.
The reason I briefly went over a story that books, a movie, and other podcasts have done way more extensively, dedicated hours to this, is because of Steven's brother, Cary Stayner. Cary was Steven's oldest brother. He was the oldest sibling in the family. He also murdered 2 women and 2 teenage girls in 1999. Furthermore, he assaulted the 2 teenage girls and one of the women. He's currently on death row in California for these crimes, or what other states call a life sentence, since California doesn't actually use their fucking death penalty.
I was about to say, I don't think California had the death penalty.
They have it. They don't use it. The governor there is just like, I'm not going to use it. He's not commuting anyone's sentences, but he's just not signing off on anybody getting killed. He is also suspected to possibly have 5 other victims, with one of these potential victims being his very own uncle. They haven't been able to prove he is the murderer in any of these 5 cases, but at least not yet. I'm sure they're working on it. I'm only briefly mentioning the crimes because, much like his brother, there are plenty of YouTubers and podcasters that focus on Cary's murders. You can get the beat-by-beat details on those, and they're pretty bad. He was fucked up. This is about Cary's family life. When Cary was 3, he was diagnosed with trichotillomania.
All right.
Which is a fancy way of saying compulsive hair pulling. He would sit there and just constantly pull his hair.
Oh, his own hair. I thought you meant other people's hair.
No, he would sit there and pull at his own hair constantly. And despite them putting him on medication, he pulled until he had bald spots.
Oh, what's it called again?
You asshole.
You gotta say it again.
Trichotillomania.
Nice. I thought you meant pulling other people's hair. I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird.
No, and he was super self-conscious about all his bald spots. He spent most of his time wearing hats because, it's going to be looking weird if you got patchy little stuff. It'd be like a dog with mange or something. According to Cary, he began fantasizing about kidnapping and murdering women when he was about 7 years old.
Man.
Yeah.
Some messed up dreams for a 7-year-old.
Yeah, I'm trying to look back whenever I was 7. I think the closest I ever came doing that is, whenever you were out somewhere with your mom and you imagine somebody trying to rob your mom and you're like, you find a way to like kill the bad guy and you're the action superhero. But yeah, that's closest I think my little messed up brain ever got to it. When Steven, his younger brother, was kidnapped, Cary was 11 years old. That's one check in the column that Steven's ordeal had nothing to do with what Cary eventually did. Because 4 years before his brother, he was already thinking about kidnapping and killing women, which he eventually did. Cary admitted that as a child, he exposed himself to one of his sister's friends. I don't know how old he was whenever he did this. So I don't know if it was like before or after his brother got kidnapped. I don't know if he was like a teenager yet. I just know that his sister said it, as well as the friend who recounted it, saying, oh yeah, it totally happened. So I totally knew he was a pervert, but still shocked because I never thought he would actually murder someone. It's like, oh, I didn't think he was a killer. I thought he was just a perv.
Yeah. Just like to flash his junk.
Cary says that in the 7 years that Steven was gone, he felt neglected by his parents. During that time,
rightfully so.
I'm going to go into a little detail here. During that time, his mother refused to leave the house empty in case Steven or the police called. So they really weren't able to go to any places together. Okay. Yeah. The father would search any ground where it looked like it had been freshly dug, and occasionally follow strange-looking vehicles he'd see on the highway.
Once again, put yourself in
I
another
get it.
person's shoes, and you have no idea how you're going to react.
Exactly. But, I mean, for 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, that's still watching.
You got other kids to worry about, too. I know. You got to be a mom and dad for the other ones, too, not just the one that's missing.
But I know how, like earlier, I said they didn't really go on a lot of family trips. The family would go on long road trips to talk to potential witnesses or informants. So, I mean, everything they did kind of surrounded this. I mean, it permeated every aspect of their lives. Steven and Cary's sister said that the Stayner children all felt like it was their job to not upset their parents. So they kept their feelings to themselves and they took care of themselves.
Man, it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. She also said that they could not watch the news in the house because if the news mentioned Steven, their dad would just start crying. So, I mean, you got this a very emotionally volatile house where you're not exactly able to express emotion.
Yeah, you're walking on eggshells around everybody.
Yeah. Eventually, after Cary was caught and arrested at his trial, their father, Delbert Stayner, even admitted that he had been so concerned with Steven that he had hardly spoken to Cary. He also admitted that whenever he did, he was especially hard on him. Because, I mean, he's the oldest. You always expect the oldest to shoulder some of the burden and things.
Yep.
Their mother claimed that Cary felt responsible for Steven's abduction because he was his big brother. He's supposed to protect him. This story was backed up by one of Cary's childhood friends that said Cary loved his brother. And when they were young, he would constantly looking out for Steven and played with him all the time, even though there was like a 4-year age difference between them. They would still hang out all the time. Speaking of his mother, throughout Cary's trial, they would refer to her as unemotional and the disciplinarian of the household. She did not contradict any of those statements, and if anything, and reinforced it, saying that's how she was raised. She told a story about her father, Steven's grandfather, that whenever he talked about Steven's disappearance, he referred to it as a good thing because now she only had to take care of 4 kids.
Oh my God.
That is some 1800s mentality shit where you just keep spitting out kids because you know half of them are going to die.
Yeah. Damn. You need a lot of kids to work on the farm.
Yeah. Well, this guy, he's going to get a lot better right here. When she was growing up, her father didn't allow tears because it would make her seem crazy like her mother. Stop fucking crying. It's what your mom did.
To cry.
I threw her out. So
That's
she
terrible.
confessed that was the mentality that she brought with her to her own family. The mother also noted that Cary had always been a loner, but after Steven was killed in the hit and run, Cary retreated further from everyone.
Damn, how can you get further away from being alone?
His whole the way you do that is you move over next to a national park where you do odd jobs, and there's campers and all sorts of people because it's a very isolated area. It's a national park. His whole thing was he was killing people near the Yosemite National Park. That's where all 4 of his victims were.
Okay.
One of them was like someone that worked in the park, and then the other one was like a mother, her daughter, and their foreign exchange student. And yeah, it's pretty fucked up. All right. So, however, it may not have been the hit and run that made him retreat from everyone. Something else happened after Steven died. Shortly after Steven's death, their uncle was murdered. When Cary was 28 years old, he lived with his uncle, Cary Stayner. On December 26, 1990, just over a year after Steven died, Cary was shot and killed by his own shotgun.
Oops.
Yeah. He was killed after he went home for lunch and was found shortly after he was shot by a friend that saw his front door open and was like, that's kind of weird. Cary was interviewed, but at the time, he was not considered a suspect. One source that I found says that Cary claims that his Uncle Jerry molested him sometime after Steven was kidnapped. I can only think of a couple reasons that you move in with an uncle, a creepy uncle like that. One of them, I'm not going to vocalize because I don't want to have any sound clips of me saying it. And the other is revenge.
Oh.
His murder is still unsolved, but being that his roommate was later to be found to be a serial killer, then it definitely moved Cary up on the suspect list. The thing is like at the time he didn't retreat away from everybody. He was with everybody. It was after that's whenever he retreated away from everybody. And I doubt he was so broken up over his creepy, dirty uncle where that was going to make him isolate. Killing his dirty, creepy uncle, that might make him get away from everybody for a while.
Mm-hmm. Try to keep that monster at bay.
No, the opposite.
Well, learn how to keep it at bay. Like
I'll
Dexter.
get to that. No. 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 This is one of those things where whenever he retreated away from everybody, it wasn't to fight off the beast. I think it was more to sink deeper into it. No, just sink deeper into it. Let it take control. When Steven came back home, Cary was 18 years old and in his last year of high school. The high point of his senior year, he got voted most creative because he was really good at drawing. Downside, after 7 years of having his own room, he had to share his room with his newly returned brother. Bummer. The Steven that the Stayners got back was not the same Steven that was taken from him. He came back after going through hell, which takes a toll. But he also came back as a smoker and drinker because kidnapping child molesters apparently aren't very good at raising kids. His parents tried to rein Steven back in, and it made their home life very volatile as everyone readjusted. So there were a lot of screaming arguments and fights and everything. Before, everybody was uptight because, the parents were emotional wrecks that were ready to fall to pieces at any moment. Now, they got the kid back. They're on cloud nine, but the kid's kind of fucked up because, he got stolen for 7 years and violated a lot. And they're like, you're 14 years old. You can't smoke and drink. He's like, fuck you. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, watch me.
Yeah, pretty much. Furthermore, all the attention in the house was focused on Steven more than it had been whenever he was gone. One person pointed out in a press conference early on in Steven's return, everyone in the background in the picture is smiling except Cary. Personally, I think that's kind of looking at Cary through serial killer glasses because everything I saw said that he was a loner, weird, and not very emotional. So I doubt he was much of a smiler to begin with.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, he was happy to have his brother back, but he really wasn't happy with how it was impacting his life. The reason I bring up all of this attention stuff is because once captured, Cary said something that was pretty jacked up. An FBI agent asked if Cary wanted to talk. So it was the opening of an interrogation. That's how they always do it. See if they get you to just start spilling with no effort. Cary's response was, I want you to get a hold of some producers in Los Angeles. I want a movie of the week made about my story. So the assumption that a lot of people take from that is that he wanted the same level of attention that his brother got. Because there was a movie. It was a movie of the week made about him. Made for TV movie. It had, you remember Corin Nemec from Parker Lewis Can't Lose?
No.
Remember that show in the 90s?
No.
Anyways, he played Steven. He played Steven Stayner. And it was called I Remember My First Name is Steven because that's what he told the cops. Is he couldn't remember his last name.
Wow.
Yeah. Cary and Steven's family don't agree with that assumption that he wanted the same attention that his brother got. And I agree that he did not assault, murder, burn, and decapitate his victims for attention. I think it was more... I think he was just kind of making the most out of his stupid situation. I mean, if he's busted, he knows he's going to prison, that they got him dead to rights. Why not get famous like his brother? He was just trying to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
The final part that I'd like to touch on is the Stayner's family's reaction to Cary's trial. They never denied his guilt. They never said he didn't do it. I mean, all the evidence pointed at it. He even was like, yeah. There are people that spent years... The Stayner family are people that spent years on the victim's side of a horrific crime.
Mm-hmm.
So they are in a position to be uniquely empathetic to the families of Cary's victims.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been on both sides of this now. With all that being said, they worked very hard testifying on his behalf to attempt to persuade the court to not give him the death penalty. The family feels that he is mentally ill, which, hell, even I'll agree to that. But I'm not someone that thinks it makes any difference if you're mentally ill on how you should get punished. I mean, say some schizophrenic person refuses to take their medicine and their voices persuade them to kill some people. They get caught, they get put on meds, they understand the gravity of what they did. So fucking what? The victims aren't any less dead if the perpetrator feels bad for it.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm for killing them. but at the very minimum, they should never breathe a breath of free air again for the rest of their lives. I don't care if they're fucking crazy. Doesn't matter.
Well, you put them in jail and you give them their medicine every hour or whatever they take. Keep eyes on them, and then when that time comes.
Now, despite, my opinion on it, I don't blame them for doing whatever they could do to keep him from getting the death penalty. The Stayner parents lost one son already, and as normal parents would do, any other parent, they would, you fight to protect the life of your remaining son. Uh-huh. And that's what they did. Cary's reaction to the supporting testimony of his family was he would start crying and he would cover his ears. He did not want them to defend him. He didn't even want them spending money traveling to his trial. He's like, money's too tight, don't do that. I imagine some of that could be because, I don't want you spending money, but then I also imagine some of it's like, I really don't want you to hear about all the really fucked up shit I did. Because two of his victims were I think 15, 16 years old. And those are the ones that, two of the ones that he assaulted. It could just, I could be right, and it could be as basic as not wanting to look bad, not wanting to look worse in the eyes of his family. But, there could be more to it. I mean, maybe there is still some tiny little shreds of humanity in him that still cared about his family. That could have been the case.
Yeah.
The Stayner family recently took part in a documentary about Steven's abduction. It's on Hulu. I can't remember what it's called. And whenever they were asked about Cary's mother refused to answer. She wasn't going to discuss anything involving Cary and his crimes. My guess is that they do like every family does when you have unfortunate circumstances. Even though theirs is, uniquely horrible. You do the best. You do the best that you can do to take care of yourself, your family, and you just live life day by day. I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback the way they raise their kids. The family had to live through an unimaginably horrible ordeal.
Absolutely.
Personally, I think that Cary was already born with the potential to do horrific things. I think, much like whenever you're born, there's a certain level of intelligence that you can hit in some people where, say it was on a 1 to 10, this person, they have the potential to hit a 9, while this person, if they work just as hard, they're going to hit a 4. I think the same comes with potential evil. There are some people that are born with I could really, really try hard, and then they shoplift some candy once or something.
Uh-huh.
And then you got other people that just have the capability of, I don't know, genocide. So, I think
it's very unique for that family to be able to have both sides of that, both sides of the coin, to be able to have feelings on both sides. I'm sure that doesn't happen very often.
No, I mean, like I said, they are in a position to be so much more empathetic with the victims' families than you see in a lot of cases where some of murder and stuff like that, where that person, as much as they may feel bad, that goes all out the window. It's only about protecting their son, her daughter, or whoever.
Wow, that's messed up.
Well, I think that Cary did not act on his desires sooner because of his family and their situation. So instead of believing that his family situation made him crazy, I think, if anything, it prevented him from killing people sooner. Steven's kidnapping dominated that house for more than 7 years. The remaining Stayner kids had to take care of themselves, they had to take care of each other, and they had to take care of their parents. That probably kept them all very busy, especially with Cary being the oldest. Because like I said, oldest always has to shoulder more.
Yep.
We both know this because we're both the oldest in our families.
Uh-huh.
We know it's like. Our younger sisters,
they don't do shit.
Easy. Yeah. Whether they knew it or not, keeping him occupied with helping his siblings and taking care of himself and trying not to upset his parents probably prevented him from really exploring those impulses sooner. I mean, idle hands are the devil's playthings. He didn't have time to keep his hands too idle. My theory, and I said this kind of earlier, is that whenever he isolated himself, that had more to do with him acting on those impulses. Spending all that time alone with his bad thoughts without distractions, without his family, occupying his time or getting him to focus on them, would allow his darkness to just take over. I mean, being somebody that, I got my own issues, I have my depression monster in my head, and if it's too quiet, it never shuts up. You don't want that.
It's a good theory.
I hate the situation that Cary and his family had to cope with whenever it came to Steven. But whenever it comes after that, after Steven, I have no sympathy for Cary at all, just his family. He did what he did, and it's really fucking awful. But I do really, really admire the fact that his family never, ever once tried to minimize what he did. Even though they were saying he was sick and stuff like that, they expected him to be punished. They just fought for his life. They didn't fight for his freedom. And that's admirable. I mean, I always said that I could never commit a crime because I know my dad would testify against me in a heartbeat. Well, I didn't raise him to do that, little bastard. Put him in prison. Now, that being said, as far as I'm concerned, Cary is just the kind of person that the death penalty is made for. I mean, he did it without a doubt.
Without remorse.
He's admitted to it. The things he did were absolutely horrific. To him, he's family. But to the rest of us, he's just another monster. I mean, that's their big thing. They're like, he's not a monster, he's our son. To you. To the rest of this world, He's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
He earned it. And with that being said, California, get your fucking shit together and put this guy out of his and everyone else's misery.
Wow. That was a crazy story.
Yeah. It was a lot. Honestly, I kind of expected this one to go longer because this is the longest script that I've ever written, but this is one of the longest episodes. I guess I read it really fast.
I didn't chime in as much as I used to.
Because you were so enthralled.
I was just letting you tell the story. I was like, there's no reason to put in any punchlines and jokes because it ain't a joking story.
No. I mean, originally I was going to go over like a couple serial killers per episode. This guy with his family, this guy with that family. Eventually, I imagine I'd find some woman in her family. But once I've got into the whole like Stayner stuff, I mean that family gets a whole episode. There's just too much going on there.
Man.
Well,
you said he got only four. Only 4 victims.
Only four
known victims. Convicted.
There are 5 additional ones that he's being looked at for. And honestly, I think the uncle one is pretty much a slam dunk. You got a dirty uncle that touches you with his wiener, you kill the son of a bitch. that just makes sense. That's how that works, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm glad you found this interesting. I mean, I find it interesting, and that's why I plan on doing more of these. I mean, there's unfortunately a large number of serial killers you can go. I will say though, some of them it's kind of tough to really get good information on their family life. This one was easy because
it's everywhere.
That family was kind of had to live in the public for quite a while. So
it's just amazing though that not only did you have a child that was abducted and you're part of a national look for him campaign or whatever you want to call it, and then you have another child who turned out to be a serial killer who's also everybody knows about it. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Poor family. I mean, what did they ever do? Why are they getting put through all that?
I don't know. Cosmically, I don't get it. Maybe in a past life they were, I don't know, British royalty that were mean to people or something. I honestly don't know.
Man, that's just terrible.
All right. Well, if you found this as interesting as Jason and I, let us know in the comments. If we get some traction in the comments, I'll work on one of these sooner. Otherwise, I'll probably do another one in like a month or so. We'll see. Depends on what the topic garden, how bountiful it is. Or, remember, look at my topic field.
Well, I do have one quick question. When he was arrested, how was he found? Did he turn himself in, or they finally?
No, he did not turn himself in. So the first 3 victims were all one thing. It was that mom or daughter and the foreign exchange student. They were staying in a hotel or motel that he was a maintenance guy at, and he got them to let him in, saying it was a maintenance issue. Went in, tied people up, did bad things, and so on and so forth. Kidnapped both the young girls, strangled one, burned the other. It's all sorts of fucked up shit. Well, he burned her after he killed her, I'm pretty sure. But then afterwards, like about a handful of months later, I think, there was a young lady that lived and worked over at Yosemite, and he basically snatched her from like her driveway, sexually assaulted her, and then cut her head off. And there was a clue left there. I can't remember what, but they were able to track him based on that. I can't remember if somebody saw his car there or something, but he got caught because he got sloppy on that one. I mean, he was sloppy with both of them, to be honest. I mean, he was not that kind of guy that's planning out his murders. He was one that got the impulse and then he acted on it. I don't think he was like some sort of brilliant Hannibal Lecter thing. I think he was a fucked up guy that pulled his hair.
I was just wondering if he went easily or if he went out
once they
and they drug him out of the room.
No. Once they had him figured out, they if I remember right, they found him at a nudist colony. He liked going to nudist colonies. That was his whole thing. Whenever a lot of his friends and stuff said that, he was probably most at peace, or he was like getting stoned in the woods while he's butt naked.
Who isn't?
Not me. That sounds horrible. That's how you get like
itchy,
bug bites and things.
Yeah, poison ivy in places.
So they went to the nudist colony he was staying at, and it's like, okay, well, we know you ain't hiding nothing, so
that one
check
place
his
to
ass.
check. Yeah, I got that one place to check still.
It's like, oh yeah, sorry, let me bend over, and he starts shooting a gun from his asshole or something. His kegels are incredible. Yeah.
What I don't know.
What is it kegels when it's the asshole too, or is that just the hoo-ha muscles?
I think it's just the hoo-ha muscles.
Huh.
I don't know. I don't know what exercise you call for the sphincter.
Good to know. If anyone knows, put it in the comments. Any other?
No. I was just wondering on that.
Yeah. This seems just like a fucked up family. Not a fucked up family, like, hey, we're gonna like beat the shit out of each other or whatever, but just a family that went through some fucked up shit that had, some basic fucked up family issues mixed in and make it seem worse.
Damn.
All right. Well, until next time, join us whenever... I did that all wrong. Me. Join us next time when Jason, if he isn't too busy... Why do you interrupt me whenever you know what I'm going to do every time? Could you at least let me get my joke out first?
All I said was, that's me.
Yeah. This is an audio format. You should talk... Let me get my joke out. Every time I end with a joke like this.
Okay.
Oh my God. Are you ready? Can I finish the joke this time?
You could keep going.
Join us next. I'm going to kill you. I don't care if it's on recording. Join us next time when Jason, if he isn't too busy burying bodies for one of his many, many, many children after they finally snap, if he isn't too busy doing that, he'll tell us about some things that will make us say, wait, what? I mean, seriously, Jason, you got 6 kids. One of them's going to do something psychotic.
The odds are not in my favor. You are right.
They're not. Yeah, you put that much spawn out in the world, you're gonna have some bad seeds in there.
Yeah, I have my favorite picked out so far as far as who's going to do it. And
so it's not a roll of a dice. It's more of a horse race where you have odds.
It just win. It just when is it going to happen? More likely.
Well, you can borrow a shovel as long as you don't tell me what it's for, because I'll narc you out on accident.
Yes, you will. You've already made that quite clear.
I don't know how clear I can make it. All right. Well, bye everybody.
Later.
Thank you for joining us for Wait What? If you would, tell your friends or your enemies that they can watch us on YouTube or Rumble. And if you don't want to see our face, or if they don't want to see our faces, you can listen to us on your preferred audio platform. That's Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Pandora, you name it. We're probably on there. Please like, review, and comment on whatever platform you joined us on today. We'd appreciate that a ton. Again, just thank you for listening and watching. We hope you'll join us next time. We'll make you say, wait, what?